How you doing, everybody? Donald and Kyle and Derek, Javier, Joseph and John. How you guys doing? Hi, Rick. Hey, Donald. Is the sound and the picture okay? Hi, Andrew. El Basi. Rohit. Hi, Rohit. How you doing, Paul? Good to see you guys. Hey, Bruce. Forbin. Good, 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 good. Hey, Junior. Um, Let me tell you, this morning we went through some of the winners um, on the Grand Prix and talked about them, and there were three areas that seemed to have some um, iffy kind of choices that we wondered about. And so there were, and I want to talk about those today. I thought I would get some feedback from you guys. Hey, Andrew, the other Andrew. Hey, Rohit, let me see. Oh, we got, hi, Thomas. Okay. Yeah. Andrew, I think you got it. Um, okay, no. Everybody can say hi to everyone, which is always nice. Always nice to greet one another. And um, let me get started because I think there are a couple things I wanted to say. A number of things. First of all, there are three categories in the Grand Prix where your less expensive watches are. And the less expensive watches are sort of for two reasons. One, collectors like us, and it seems something we can afford. And the other reason has to do with what we might call sort of giving the little guy a leg up, helping sort of the newcomers come into it. And to some extent, these three categories represent the children's table of high horology and the children's table of Grand Prix. And any Grand Prix award is an important award, but some more so than others. For example, the men's category is very competitive. Chronometer category, same thing. I was looking at those. Any one of the ones in, I think it was a chronometer category, any one of those have won, I would have said, yeah, they deserve it. But in looking at these, when we sort of go down to the children's table, hey, Phil, um, yikes. Um, what was the name of the French band you mentioned at the start of your video? Two really nice watchmakers. Disappointed we're not surprised. Transparency regarding the voting. For example, distribution of the votes per watch per category. Nah, it's not going to happen. There's certain things that are done for other reasons. I would agree with that. I think with these three categories, there is something. It's sort of like, let's have something for the kids. We'll give these out. But I think in some of the more rarefied air, where you have, some serious watchmaking going on, not so much. Okay, so let's start off with the divers category. Now, here are the watches that were in that running, and the one is Breitling. The one I liked was Doxa, just because I like Doxa. Not necessarily it's the best one in the world. Another was Grand Seiko. Another was this is a Ming. This one is Ming. This one's Reservoir, and this one is Ulysse Nardin, I think. Right. Okay. And so okay. So what we're dealing with. The question was, why in the world did Breitling win? And in looking at these, the Breitling has something they call B-17, but B-17 is neither a World War II bomber nor an in-house movement. It's an ETA 2824-2. Okay. So, all right. I think this morning I talked about the Eberhard had won a similar award, and it too had an ETA. They had won a divers award, I think, back in 2017 or so. Anyway, so if we compare the Breitling with the Doxa in terms of movement, there's not a lot of difference. Grand Seiko, though, the Grand Seiko has got, a seriously good movement. 600 meters. Don't know why. Why? What is it in the Breitling that it had that the Grand Seiko didn't have? I don't know. The Ming. Ming's I don't think Ming makes her own movement. Okay. Now, this one, Reservoir, this one I was almost positive was going to win, even though I didn't go for it. This is because Reservoir, and I think Reservoir has an ETA base to it. And they tell you they have an ETA base, and then you do all of these really cool things with it. So it was one that be very competitive. Finally, the Ulysse Nardin. Now I have it's another one. They have their own movement. I'm not sure which one it is, but I remember I forgot. They had one that was, I think it was called the UN 118 or something like that. But I do know that they have their own movement. Okay, so we go back to why in the world did Breitling win? And here's the answer. I have no idea. Okay, so let's hear from you. Why do you think, is there something special about it? Maybe there's something like that Eberhard. They say, hey, they was able to do this and this and this. And I checked the price. It was around 5,000, something like that, which is not cheap. The Eberhard, when it won because they did all of these things. Plus the price was much lower. Oh, let's see. Okay, guys, hi, Javier. Okay, Andrew, I was surprised it was even a consideration, even a nomination. I agree with you all. Hi, Clyde, how you doing? Clyde, we were just trying to figure out, we were looking at these are the nominated divers, and we were trying to figure out why in the world Breitling won. Now, we can look at these things all day, but the features on them, I'm not sure why the Breitling won, given its price, compare it to the Doxa, and the Reservoir and the Ming and some of these other ones. Okay, what do you have to say? Nothing special about. Okay, you don't like Breitlings, Rohit. I like the Doxa as well. Doxa Nation, go Doxa. I like the orange ones though the best. Hey, Joseph, conservative voting during pandemic, the human condition seeking the comfort of no one at a time. Breitling's never won before, Joseph. There's nothing comforting about it, in my opinion. But that's, Breitling is a well-known brand. That's definitely true, but I don't know. I would have picked any of these other than Breitling. Yeah, Rick, I agree. Is that when I looked at this, I was surprised to find that the Breitlings were in the nominated group. One of the things is like with what's his name? Jacob the jeweler. Jacob the jeweler's got a lot of bling watches. And I've noticed that they put a whole bunch of them into the Grand Prix, and a surprising number of them make them to the nomination level, but they never win. I think that I'm not sure. Well, I've got my ideas about why, and it's usually in the jewelry category that that they do the best. But I think for some reason they'd have a hard time with it. Now with Breitling, Breitling is well known, but so's Grand Seiko. Well, Ulysse Nardine perhaps is also well known among the more general public, but we're not dealing with the more general public here because the ones in the chronometer and the chronograph and all of these are probably brands that nobody outside of watch collection who's serious about watch collection knows about. I mean, like Wooten Lannen won the men's. Who knows Wooten Lannen outside of watch collectors? Not a lot of people. Hey Phil, GS for me. Don't understand Breitling, but I'm not a fan. Okay. Hey Orange Hand. Let's see. Corruption. Yeah, this is for the number of years, and I've known a number of people who are involved in it. I don't know. I think there's certain considerations that someone might say, well, why don't we give Breitling a break? They've been struggling or something like that. They've been putting out I don't know what it is. I really don't. Hey, Raj, Jacob Kimmey, producer of Michel's Territory. I don't know. Okay, the B in Breitling may stand for bribery. The euros, I don't. Yeah, but I mean, we can say that, but there's absolutely no evidence of anything like that. Careful, Bill. They will indoctrinate you. I really like doxa. Let's see. What are some other ideas? Hey, King of the Kludge, how are you? Brightly-eyed and bushy. God. Hey, Foreman, you've been hanging around Clyde too much. See, do you mean the misconduct? Yes. Clyde had a name for some of these as the Miscongeniality Award, and I completely agree. And I would add, I think the biggest Miscongeniality Award is what is it called? The Iconic Award. That doesn't make any sense to me. Hey, Tennessee, how you doing, man? Perhaps if we were to see these watches in person, we would discover true relative superiority of the Breitling. That may be true. I gotta, I doubt it. I mean, looking at the other watches, if these watches were all, sort of a crowd-funded delight, that might happen. But none of these watches are not good watches, really. I mean, they're Docks as well on Grand Seiko, Reservoir. Reservoir's won before. Ulysse Nardine won with one of my favorite ones. It wasn't a diver. It's great yacht. How is it called? The Regatta. That was one of my favorite watches ever. I really liked it. I do know that Ulysse Nardine went through this thing. They didn't have their own movements. Now they do. And they had some wins on there, but I don't understand some of these other ones. They just, I mean, okay, let's see what we got. Plunker, would you say the GPHC awards are more for promoting watchmaking than actually determining the best watch in each category? I say promotion myself, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. Pluckner, to some extent, you're right. I mean, this is one of the things. It's like the Academy Awards. It's the Academy Awards of watches. Are the Academy Awards for movies? Are they for promotion? Are the Country Music Awards for promotion? It's like, one thing about like, in the World Cup football matches, you got teams going at each other and they both really want to win, and the winner is the one who has more points. And so, to say oh, there must be some corruption going on. Now, I don't know. I think something's going on, but I don't think it is flat out corruption. I think it's a lot more complex than that. Andrew, didn't they change the composition of the board? Could that be the difference? And does every judge judge every category? Andrew, that's a very good point. I don't think so. They did change the composition, but what they've been doing is they've been changing it a lot. Every year they sort of seem to have a new batch of people on there. Some people are there a lot, like the woman who what is her name? She's the editor of Pad and Quill. And, to me, I know that someone told me, she was a little iffy about it, but then she keeps going back as a judge. And, there's nothing about her that I think is corrupt. The guy that I know personally, he's certainly not. And if anybody, he'd give it to somebody else. Maybe it was chosen by a random generator. Could be. Hi, Mark. How you doing? The only relevant Breitling is the nav timer, in my humble opinion. Listen, I'm not down on Breitling. My big disappointment was this. Why did they put in a watch that didn't have one of their in-house manufactured movements? Because they do have their own movements. If had they done that and they won, I'd say, more power to them on that. Okay, let's see what, the Regatta was a favorite Buick ever. Okay, so it's like the Academy Awards who's molesting all the participants. No, it's more like Miss America where they all get molested. Hey, Paul, how you doing? Hey, Zeus. I think with something as subjective and obscure as watchmaking practices and taste, there's always going to be controversial winners at shows like GPHG. There's a difference between, if my favorite watch wasn't chosen in this group, which happened to be the Doxa. But I know the Doxas, if you compare the Breitling with the Doxa on one, you're not going to find a whole lot of differences. And so something like that, I'd say sort of shrug it off. But if you take Grand Seiko versus Breitling, I got, whoa, wait a minute. That doesn't, something's not, I don't know. It's just me. The other ones in it, like I said, and this isn't the only point. It was sort of like a lot of people said the same thing. A Breitling, and if it had been a Breitling with one of their own movements, that would be a very different story. Hey, Hunter, how you doing? I once read that AP and Breitling were among the biggest financial contributors to the various horological foundations in Geneva. Maybe they got some for philanthropy. Hey, Lee, how you doing? How things in Franken Gulch? Those pig judges are kind of pig judges. Okay. Talking about something else. All right. Okay, let's take a look at another award where there was some queries, at least among the people I know. Now, this is the Petite Aiguille. The Petite Aiguille means a little hand, but also it means a little needle and a bunch of other stuff. But in the context of watch collection or watchmaking, it refers to the little hand. In other words, the hour hand. Now, this used to be what Clyde would call the Miss Congeniality Award, but it's sort of gone up a notch. This is what the Petite Aiguille is. It's for watches that are over $4,000 but under 10,000. It used to be all watches under 8,000 Swiss francs. Now it's between 4 and 10, so it's up a notch. Now, of the watches here, you've got, I was looking at the movements. Bell and Ross, they tend to use ETAs or Solitas or something like that, harboring to Harboring 2 is the kind of watch I think that should win more of these. They've already won 4 Grand Prix awards and for a small company. But what they have what's called their A11H1. Now the A11 is their base movement, and it stands for Austria 2011 when that was done. And then they made this panda-like chronograph, and they have some really interesting horology in it. But, it's sort of like, well, we keep giving it to Harboring 2, so let's cut it out. And we'll give it to somebody else this time. Now, I think that may have happened with FP Journe. FP Journe won 7. It's won more Aiguille d'Or than any other watch company, including Patek Philippe and Vacheron Constantin. Each have won 2. And so my thing is that, say, to Harboring 2 is, okay, guys, you're doing great stuff, but we got to pass it around a little. But again, here you have a Breitling, and it's got an ETA 2824-2 in it, and it's also a Super Ocean. I mean, they have sort of 2 different versions of the same models in different categories. Okay, now, a brand that I complain a lot about is IWC, mainly because they do exactly the same thing as Breitling, namely put in cheap movements, give it some phony baloney name, and then sell it as an IWC. But they have some of their own movements that are quite good. And this one has what's called an 8200. This is the movement in here is an IWC 8200. Nada. That I have, I'm glad to see that they're doing that. But this compared to this, I just don't see it. This one, I think, for lots of reasons, I'd be much happier accepting this one as winning than this one. Now, here, the Sarpaneva, I'm not sure what it has in it. I know that at one time they had the Soprod A10, which was a movement now called, I think, Soprod M100. It's a wonderful movement that's based on a Seiko 4L, which was Seiko's attempt to get into high horology. They got a really good movement in that. So this one was based on, I think, a comic strip from Finland or someplace, and all of these characters were in honor of him. Don't know what kind of movement, they didn't say. This one had something that's called the eccentric caliber. This is the watch that I picked for winning because it's so innovative and so interesting. And I don't know what the eccentric caliber is, but it's the way they talked about it. It was maybe somebody went in there and said that may be the complication may be by the name of the company is Trilobe. It may be a Trilobe, but no. I don't know that. I have no reason for knowing that, but I just, because I picked it, it's sort of like, I'm sort of crying about losing, which is, it's not so much that, but there are a lot of watches. I think this one, or this one should won because they have their own movements to begin with. And that's one of the things about the Grand Prix is how to find good watches. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Hi, Arno. How you doing? I think it's sad to say that the nav timer is the only relevant Breitling. All right. Okay, IWC fake watches under 6,000. All right. The Super Ocean 2 is my favorite Breitling. Okay. The Harboring 2 looks great. I think so too. The Sarpaneva is not in-house. I hesitate to wear cartoon characters on my wrist. Okay, that's the ones of his that I like are those moon phases. Those are really special. Um, oh wait, Briley ponied up some money. Yeah, we don't know that. Okay, yeah, there. Did it stop buffering now, Mark? It was before because of I don't know why, but it decided to buffer. Um, okay, let's see. Breitling threatened to send John Travolta into lobby on their behalf personally. Okay, Breitling Watch gave proceeds to COVID charity, so maybe judges were being charitable. That's possible. Oh, good. Thank you, Andrew. I had a little. There's a little notice up here on my computer that says, you may experience buffering. So I hope it's settled down now. But the sound keeps breaking. Okay. What I did, let me check something on the sound. I better not. It'll probably go all the way off. I put on a microphone. I just have. I think the best microphone on this thing is the one that's built in. I keep adding one, hoping this is the one I have. I think keep hoping that it'll be better. Hi, Jeannie. How you doing? Any recommendations for watch-related books? Yeah, watchmaking. That was by George Daniels. That IWC is lovely in person. I usually feel the same way as you do about the brand, though. Yeah. It's, IWC has, really quite a history to it. And they had some really bright watches. I think they're owned by Richemont now, if I'm not mistaken, but they may not be. Hey, King of the Kludge, what do you think about JLC chronographs? Love them. But the Harboring 2 is so understated, but yeah, this is the thing. If you read the blurbs about these different watches that they have, this Harboring 2 goes into the details, the wonderful details about how they made the watch and what they did. And, just like, okay. All right. Well, let's get to the final one. This one is for the challenge watch. Now, the challenge watch is, I mean, for the candidate who showed up on time the most. These watches, the challenge watches, are to me the sort of the real entryway. I mean, here's somebody starting off and they want to have a low price watch. Now, these are watches that are all under 4,000 Swiss francs. And the one that I liked was this one for several reasons. And I like this sort of crazy design. It's a regulator and so forth. This was another one that really had a lot of very interesting aspects to it. Now, this is a funny thing. Ahsoka, this is an Ahsoka, sort of like an Ahsoka dial, and the rest of it is, something. Basically, he put his name. He did a design he did the basic design, not the movement though, and then stuck his name on it, related, and made it affordable, which on the one hand is okay, but on the other hand, it's really his stuff, his real stuff is so good that. Now this, I think, is another Ming. There were two Mings that made it to the finals. And again, this is the Ming. I don't think it's an in-house movement. This one, the Behrens, this is the Behrens rotary. This has such an interesting complication to it for timekeeping, really, really fascinating. And but again, it may have a base movement by whomever, but this is one. Now Breitling, is there a Breitling on the finalist? Yeah, there was a Breitling on the finalist, but they didn't win this time. It was won by Tudor. Tudor is like well established, owned by Rolex has lots of resources for making movements. The latest is that Kinesi deal that they went into with Chanel, and then on Rolex land, they're building them this big sort of workshop in Geneva. I just, like I said, I just, this is like, it's sort of like, well, if we put Tudor at the children's table, it'll probably win something. You really have the same watch as one. I mean, it's a back bay, and it there doesn't seem to be an iota of really interesting anything about it. It's a good tool watch, like its mother company, but I don't know. So, okay, so that's my rant on the three of them. Let's see what you think about that. What do you think? Okay. Yeah. Oh, maybe the awards are giving some consideration to reward a maker for progress and quality and options over time. Tony, that would be a great reason. That would be the greatest reason for giving an award. But what they're doing, they're basically rewarding Breitling for using an inexpensive movement that you can find on watches for half the price, and it's just like, oh, come on. If you're gonna have a watch that in the challenge thing and you have your own movement or something, that's one thing, but I don't know. The Tudor, yeah, I'm sure, like if somebody said, like this Louis Iran here, who's the guy that did it? Alain Silberman, he did the design to it. Really interesting, really innovative. Same with this one. The rest are, look like knots on a log in terms of innovation. And two, this Breitling, thank God it didn't win. It's an e-watch. It's not a mechanical watch. I'm still baffled why they put e-watches in with mechanical watches, or with quartz watches in the same category. They're different. But anyway, so those are some of the things that I just don't get. The Tudor being sort of going, like I said, it's sort of like, professional football team playing a high school team. They're not, they're in such different leagues, but they can win. And so I think that's probably the formula that they're using. Let's see. Yeah, Andrew, I've got nothing against Tudor. In fact, I agree with you. It's a great value. It really is. But like their mothership, they have slow improvements rather than innovation. Blue Man Group must have been the frying pan or the rolling pin arrives. Okay, Mark, Mark has a good question about FPJ participated in this. He's participated in a whole lot of them in the past and won and kept winning and winning and winning. Then one year he didn't win and he quit participating, which I thought was really funny. And he had won so many, I think they were sort of, I don't know. Thank you all for coming. Everybody be safe, be careful, and take care. And until next time, I hope to see you. Bye-bye.